Hello and welcome into another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. I'm your host, Drew, along with Rob, and today we got a great episode. We're going to be reviewing Super Bowl 58, which was a phenomenal game, but I'm still sad because it means football's over.
Yeah, I know how you feel. I was thinking about that, what I was going to do this weekend. Turns out work's shipping me out to Africa for a week. So I'll have my weekends booked for the next two. But then when I get back, it's like, what? Got to wait for March Madness, I guess. But yeah, hell of a game. Lots to discuss. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, before we do, though, we're going to tease you just that little bit. We do want to get into a couple news and notes. And I think the big news and notes that came out this past week were the NFL honors and awards. Rob, were there any of those awards that you want to talk about? Anything that was not business as usual?
No, I think these ones were pretty much chalk. I think Flacco sneaking away comeback player of the year from a dead guy's hands is noteworthy. But we talked about this a little bit on some earlier pods where it's like, dude had a couple tackles. And not only that, he faked a punt that kind of cost him the game a little bit. Not that that's his fault, obviously, but that was an interesting change of pace. I'm a little upset about TJ Watt getting robbed by Myles Garrett, but again, best defense player, best player on the best defense. Hard to argue against Myles, but I do think TJ Watt had the better year. And then shout out Cam Hayward for winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year, which is a hell of an award. Do you think people care about this award? Like, what's the last couple of Walter Payton Award winners that you can name? Because I think it's a hell of an award. I think it really promotes the best parts of the NFL and the players in it. I just don't know how much anybody else cares.
I mean, I love the award. There's a few I can name. I know Dak Prescott won it. J.J. Watts won it. I believe Andrew Whitworth won it. There's a few of other guys. I think Russell Wilson might have won it or was definitely a finalist for it a few years back too. So I think it's a really, really cool award. I actually love this award. It's really an award that celebrates just being a good human being. And I think I just appreciate that the NFL really pushes an award like that to the forefront. There's no other sport, no other major award that I can think of that actually just says, you know what, we're going to give this for being a good person. And I also just really like that they add like the patch that you get on your jersey when you're nominated, and you get to like keep the patch for the rest of your career if you win. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't think of another award like that doesn't, it's not about on field, right? It's about who you are off the field. I agree that the social media, the talking head hype these days, it's all about Taylor Swift and all the like DUIs or whatever crimes guys get and kind of like that level of drama. So it's really exciting to, like, as you said, to kind of celebrate these guys that are doing such awesome things off the field with their position. I am a little cynical, obviously, about the NFL promoting this as like, I'm not giving the NFL credit for this. I mean, fine. I guess you have to give a little because the award exists, but like, I don't really trust Roger Goodell too much. So I'm not like, this is a nice like greenwashing for him, but let's not go too far with it. But it's great for the players. I love that patch thing too. It's so cool that they get to keep it for their careers. And so, congrats to Cam Hayward for bringing us home.
Like, massive congrats. Anyone who earns this award, like, you're doing a ton of stuff within the community. Like, I every time I see a person who gets nominated for this award, I'm like, I have newfound respect for that player. And like,
right.
It's always like the classiest guys in the league that are up for it. Like, it's just, I love it. It's amazing.
For sure. Any other awards sticking out to you?
I mean, everything came up as chalk. I had said before, I really think McCaffrey should have won MVP, not Lamar Jackson. It's not to take anything away from Lamar. He was the best quarterback this year, but in a year where no quarterback seemed to dominate, in my opinion, this is the perfect year to give it to a guy who led the league in receiving yards, led the league in like touchdowns, like led the league in every category he possibly could, basically. Like, why not give him the award? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it just really shows that unless you're Adrian Peterson putting up record-breaking numbers these days, you're just not going to win this if you're not a quarterback, which is a shame because you're right. This was the year. I think you saw that grid that they showed in the playoffs at one point where it's like starting quarterback rosters for the 32 teams and then like how it ended. And it was it was like a bloodbath of quarterbacks,
Oh
like
yeah.
just getting plugged and played. You know, you had great scenes here and there from Dak Prescott, for instance, but then he would disappear. You know, Josh Allen had his down moments. So did Lamar to start the season, right? He came on hot at the end, but he wasn't coming out like gangbangers early in the season. So I agree. I think if there in fantasy was a reflection of this too, where it's like every team that it was something like 59% of teams in the finals on ESPN fantasy had CMC on their lineups, not
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson.
probably.
But whereas like I was in a 2 quarterback league and it was chaos all year long. So it's
Yeah.
just a bit of a shame. Nothing against Lamar, but this should have gone to CMC as well. I agree with you there. This is now just the quarterback award. Congrats CMC for winning Offensive Player of the Year, which is essentially consolation prize to any
Yeah.
non-quarterback.
And that just seems to be the new norm. MVP is the best quarterback. Offensive player of the year is the best non-quarterback. Like, and if that's the distinction, fine, whatever, we'll accept it. Either way, though, I think that's it mostly for news and notes, at least important news and notes, some other small stuff, but nothing really to bother ourselves with. So let's get into the Super Bowl. That's what we mainly want to talk about. And Rob, how did you find the Super Bowl? What are your quick, give me 30 seconds thoughts?
Pat Mahomes is the guy. The Chiefs are a dynasty. It's undeniable now. Overtime, the new rules were very exciting. I actually think that was a good touch. They're not perfect yet, but definitely better than we've seen in the past. The Niners. I mean, just the first half was boring, but man, did that game come along! And shout out kickers, really making an impact on this Super Bowl. What was your hot takes?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the whole game was good. Like, obviously, it started out slow, but it was. I always appreciate good defense as a guy who played defense in football, and it really felt like the first half was slow, but it was more so due to solid defense than shitty offense. And so I can always appreciate that, and that just kept up throughout the game. We just started to see the offenses break through. As you said, we literally had the record for longest kick in a field goal get broken in the first half and then get broken again in the second half. So shout out to the kickers. They came to play in this game.
I missed an extra point, but honestly, you can't even hold that against him after he made clutch field goals down the stretch and made the ones that really mattered that turned the game around. And that was a blocked extra point either, and it was a it was consequential, obviously, but it wasn't like the Bills kicker, for instance, in a much more noticeably visible failure. You know, they had lots of time to win the game after that moment. So shout out to what a young kid, right? Moody rookie, hell of a performance. Despite that one fluke of a block.
I don't see anyone online being like, or I shouldn't say anyone. I see very few people online being like, oh, the 49ers lost because of a kicker. There's the odd person here or there who wants to just blame kickers because they have something against kickers. But, like, this is... Moody played a great game. This is not on Moody. Yes, he didn't hit the extra point because it got blocked. Maybe it wasn't the best kick. He put it a little too low. But either way, like, both kickers, shout out to them. All told, though, I think the game was great, and as you say, the overtime rules, fantastic improvement. Again, not perfect, but the fact that no matter what, at least now, I shouldn't say no matter what, barring a safety, both teams get to touch the ball. I'm good with that. I am honestly good with that, because at least that means that both teams get a chance. Yes, it means that the 49ers can... or because they got the ball first. If both teams score the same and the 49ers go kick a field goal, they still win and it still ends the game there, which is still shitty. But whatever, I'll move on. I'll move past that. It didn't actually come up in this game, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and even that scenario to me isn't like the end of the world. It's like your defense had 2 chances to not give up a touchdown or whatever the combination might be. But and I think this adds a lot of strategy to the game. I've been hearing after the game, a lot of the Niners coming out saying they hadn't talked about it. Some of them learned about the new rules in the playoffs from the Jumbotron, whereas the Chiefs said they had been talking about this since day one, which I think is really going to show you the preparation that Andy Reid's given his team. But I do like the strategy of this all of a sudden, because it's like, if you do hold them to a field goal, you know you got to go for that touchdown, just like the Chiefs did, and all of a sudden it's 4 down territory the whole time, which could honestly be an advantage in these situations. I think they should just make this the overtime for the whole regular season as well. I don't see the need to differentiate between playoffs and regular, but this was a marked improvement over, say, when the Steelers lost to Tim Tebow in the Broncos about 10 years ago. So, we've come far.
Had a lot of those situations.
Yeah, we've had a lot since then. Obviously, Josh Allen. You got Tom Brady beating the Falcons, right? But I go to what I'm comfortable with.
Fair enough. I do think though that like it does add a lot of strategy, as you say. Like the strategy that we didn't get to see, but I was talking about on stream, and I'm like, this becomes a question. Let's say the first team goes down and scores a touchdown. The second team knows they got to score a touchdown too, so it's 4 down territory. If they score a touchdown, you're at a point where if you kick the extra point, you tie it, but then they go and kick a field goal, they win. So do you go for 2? Do you end the game right then and there?
The Chiefs players were talking about this in their strategy meetings that they'd had all season about this. They said they were going for 2 in the situation, very similar to what Campbell was saying in the game against the Cowboys, where it's like, it doesn't matter, we're going for 2 here, like this is just what we do. And so I think that's probably the smart play. You're right, because if all of a sudden you tie it up, the tie is no longer as much of an advantage as it is in the regular in full time, right? Whatever that's called, the regular.
100%. I still don't think that the Niners, like, I honestly don't know what the better strategy is, because obviously if you get the response, you can go for 2 and win if they do it, and if they score any points, it's 4 down territory. But on the flip side, I think the Niners are right in the sense that it's like, well, hey, 1, if they don't go for 2, you have the third possession advantage. But 2, if they, like, you still get to control the course of the game, and you get to force them not to be able to kick a field goal. They can't go for it from long. They have to be more aggressive. I think I want it second, but I'm not sure what the right answer is. I could see the analytics going either way.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily a cold cut case either way, right? I think it depends on circumstance, who you're playing against, all of that stuff will factor into the future. I think it is a glaring error that if it's true, the Niners hadn't game planned. That's the mistake, right? It's not necessarily what they ended up choosing. It's that they didn't think or strategize or have, and maybe they did, and it just didn't percolate down to some of the players.
And that's, that got interviewed. I think, what happened. Like, because Kyle Shanahan was asked about it, and he said, no, like, we wanted the ball because we wanted the third possession. And so I think where his mindset is that it's like old overtime rules. They would just kick the extra point and give it to them. Or in the situation of field goal, if it's field goal, you get third possession still. So like, and there's no way to get extra points or change the number of points on a conversion on a field goal. So if it's field goal, third possession's happening. And so I do think that Shanahan, I think, knew. I just don't think he informed the players what the strategy was. I think he kind of said, I know it. You guys' job is to play. Whether you like that or not, that's a completely separate thing. But I do think they strategized it.
And I think the strategy is so interesting because even when the Niners are going down and they were stalling in that red zone, it's like you almost got to think about going for the 4th down there, or at least playing like you're going on a 4 down clock, because fine, but then it's like, okay, fine, maybe you don't kick the field goal, you turn it over. Now they only have to kick a field goal, right? There's a lot to it. But anyways, I think it was just exciting. It made this game the 7th longest game in NFL history. So I don't know if there were prop bets on that out there, but it definitely hit the over by a country mile. In fact, it was so long that, at least on the U.S. broadcasts, I was watching a Mexican bootleg, whatever, but they didn't even get to the MVP ceremony. Was that the same for you guys up north? They just cut off all of a sudden. They cut it off.
They cut it off for me too. Yeah, like they literally cut it off and I was literally on stream and I'm like, I want to see who gets the MVP, because I had been talking the whole game. Because for most of the game, I'm like, who the fuck gets MVP? Like,
Jawan Johnson was the MVP for like
Jawan Jennings.
Jennings.
And you know, I've talked on this channel about how much I like Jawan Jennings, how I think he's underrated as fuck. Like, Like, he's legit.
I know. I was going to shout you out on that, but I'll give you your flowers now. That's definitely something you said in the last podcast. Hey, and your boy Juszczyk came out banging on the first play, too. So both of them are kind of dark horses for this game. Made the appearances we thought they would make. So shout out to those men.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think at the end
Yeah,
of the day,
that was the weirdest thing. I mean, I don't know how you can't push back 60 minutes or dying with friends or whatever the next episode. Like, what was on that they couldn't show us? I know they don't give them a car anymore. I don't know if they still go to Disneyland, but I wasn't sure because I think we all knew it was going to be Pat Mahomes just because, like, who else? But you're right. That was probably the most up in the air and MVP for the Super Bowl has been in several years. I'm trying to think of maybe the last one where it was contentious to like that.
Probably the Edelman winning it in 2018, 13-3 against the Rams. Like, that very easily could have gone to a defensive player on the Patriots as well. And it didn't really feel like it was a Brady award. It's like, okay, you got one passing touchdown and not a ton of yards. Like, it didn't feel Brady-esque. So that was the last one I can think of where it was like, who wins this?
The only one I can think of is actually from the NBA, and this was when the Warriors first won the championship, and they gave it to Iggy. But really, LeBron was the MVP of that series. He was like statistical leader in every category. He was like absolutely dominant, but they just don't give it to the losing team anymore. But that's kind of the one corollary I could think of. Is like CMC almost still should have won this. He had a hell of a game if it wasn't for a fumble or two.
If it wasn't for that fumble, and that was the reason Juwan Jennings was in it, because it's like CMC had 2 touchdowns and a shit ton of yards. Did he have 2? No, he just had the 1 touchdown, but a shit ton of yards.
Good one.
He had 1 touchdown, a shit ton of yards, but it was like he also had a pretty meaningful fumble. And like I think that's what killed the 49ers more than anything was just bad timing, bad fumbles. We talk about the overtime. It's like the reason I don't hate the 49ers going for it on not going for it on 4th down there and kicking the field goal is because the Chiefs had not scored a touchdown on a full drive that entire game. The 1 touchdown they had scored up to that point, 'cause again, they had only scored 1 touchdown until overtime, was the first play after the semi-muff punt where it hit off the blocker's ankle. So the returner had to try to pick it up, couldn't grab it off the weird bounce, and it ended up with the Chiefs. And they were at the 10-yard line. They scored the next play. That was their only touchdown. They were unable to drive and score a touchdown. So I was like, yeah, if you're the 49ers, you're probably feeling pretty good that at worst you hold them to a field goal, and then you just got to get a field goal to win.
Yeah, getting into kind of the meat and heart and potatoes of the game. It was decided on the turnover battle and on special teams, right? Like, we don't blame Moody too much, but at the end of the day, he did miss an extra point, which had massive calculus into how this played out in the end. And then you had that muff punt. Again, not necessarily anybody's individual fault. I guess he didn't shout Peter hard enough, but when you're locked into a block running full speed like that, it's not necessarily easy to shift your direction and get out of that way. And for it to hit off his ankle, Ray McLeod might have been able to dive on it instead of trying to scoop and score. But like these are really nitpicky things at that pace at this point of the game.
And with that reaction, because if you're Ray McLeod, you're thinking, I'm not touching this thing. And then all of a sudden, a ball has careened in a way that you don't see it coming from 5 yards out, and you have to get on it. It's like you don't have the time to think, okay, what do I need to do? You're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah. And that in turnovers, right? It was any chance that the Niners had to really put them away or really take it away, you had a bad turnover, or they didn't capitalize on the ones that they got, and so that's kind of where that's throwing the water out with the pail or something. That's where the difference is.
That is an old man saying I have never heard of, my friend.
And I don't even think that's applicable or the correct one, but I think you know what I'm saying here. Like that was the rub. Therein lies the rub, right? Was on turnovers and special teams. I thought, like you said, to start, both defenses were excellent. We have not mentioned Dre's injury. Just the
Oh.
freak injury of him running out from the sidelines, and like I think he tore his Achilles. I haven't seen it yet, but I think it was an Achilles injury.
That's what it looked like. Like they had, it wasn't just him. They were having injuries all over the field. It felt like the 49ers. Like you had Debo leaving the game for a little bit. You had George Kittle head to the locker room for a bit. Like, yeah, some of these guys came back, but like you had not just like small name guys, you had big name players on the 49ers missing chunks of that game. Like that hurts.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one thing when you have players hurt coming into a game. It's another to lose like the heart and soul of your defense on a
Yeah.
fluke play. So that was a huge bummer for the Niners. But overall, I thought the defenses both played really, really well. You know, that's the thing. I was trying to think about this game, and it's like there wasn't much any team could have done better or differently, right? Obviously, don't fumble the ball and like connect on plays, but like there wasn't. I can't think of like a play, you know, like at the end of the, I think it was the Ravens game where Lamar just threw an awful pick to seal the game. Or I think Josh Allen also threw an awful pick to end that game.
No, Josh, that was the missed field goal that ended that game.
Oh yeah, that was the missed field. Yeah, that was the missed field goal. But my point is like there's games where you watch it, or CJ Stroud also threw really bad interceptions where it's just like you shouldn't have made those plays. Everybody knew, right? It's like I never really got that feeling out of this game where it was like there were a couple plays that were just awful. It was just like people played well. It was tense. It was back and forth, and it came down to overtime, down to the last plays, sneaky. You know, it was an excellent game all around in that respect. Even the refs didn't interfere to the point that got anyone upset. I haven't heard a single thing about the refs. So shout out to just overall high quality of product.
And that is a point I actually really appreciate that you bring up. It's like we always clown refs when refs are the problem or when a call comes up. It's like not a single person has talked about the refs, and that's a shout out to the refs. Like they've done a fantastic job. When no one is talking about you, you did fucking well.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in that role. It's like the busser at a restaurant. No one notices them until they pour your drink and food on your lap. But if you don't know your busser's name, it's like your referee. You should know the name. If you do, we're getting too much of your FaceTime on the screen.
Exactly. So, you know, shout out to the refs. I think they made all the right calls. I think I saw one thing, some 49ers fans complaining on the, like, Chiefs touchdown that there was, like, a guy downfield. But I'm like, he was maybe
that's Homer shit.
Barely over, and that's a homer. Like that is not a call that anyone would expect to be made. I have no issue with the call. No issue with any of the reffing. I'm all on board with it. Well done, refs. You know, I don't think anyone listening to this, but I like it.
Yeah. Shout you out, refs. No, and then we also got a neat trick play. The Juwan Johnson to CMC
Jennings.
for the first.
This guy doesn't even know the man's name.
Wait, why do I keep saying Juwan? Is there a Juwan Johnson? I think he's a tight end for the Saints.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Spelled differently, but yes.
Spelled very different. Juwan, I believe. Sorry, folks, for getting my Juwans confused. But anyways, no, we got to see some trickery there. I thought the play calling was pretty equal. The coaching was equal. I like this game. I think I can understand why some people might not have it at the top of their lists, but I thought overall.
Where do you think it ranks? All-time Super Bowls, and then we'll move into best bets with Bookie Bob. But the last thing, where do you think this ranks?
I mean, it's hard to argue against an overtime game. That in and of itself is very exciting and very electric. I'm also a big defensive aficionado, having watched Ravens Steelers games my whole life and having eaten them up. Top 15 for sure. Top 10, borderline top 10. I wouldn't put it in the top 5. So I'm gonna put that somewhere between 5 and 10, 5 and 11. I'll sneak 11. I haven't done the math too much to look at where I would put it, but I can think of 5 Super Bowls I would put ahead of it. Even the other overtime game, I thought that Brady comeback was just far more like electric and jaw dropping. But I mean, at the end of this game, dude, I was standing up. I had nothing besides a couple of bets and prop bets up there, so I didn't have like a vested interest in it. But man, was I like nervous, hyped, excited. The new overtime rules were killing it. So all of that in combined, definitely. I'll call it top 10. I'll call it top 10, but not top 5.
So
how about you?
I did a top 10 video, my top 10 all-time Super Bowls. And I had the other overtime game at 9. I wasn't a big fan of that game because I felt it was, it was just one team dominating and then another team dominating. It didn't feel like two juggernauts duking it out all game. So I put it at 9, obviously the comeback. But I think I slot this one in, and I might move it down as recency bias evaporates, but I have it in at number 4. I have it behind the Patriots Giants. That's my number 1. Patriots Seahawks, that's my number 2. And then all the way back at Super Bowl 3, Colts Jets is my number 3. And then I put this one.
Wow, that is very, very high.
I thought it was so good. Like, again, as you talked about, there was no bad play. There was no like, oh, you fucked this up. It just seemed like very strong play, really tight. And it never felt like you knew who was going to win. There was never that air of inevitability. Even that final drive for the Chiefs, it was like they haven't been able to drive the field yet. Like usually Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hand, driving, touchdown wins it. You think, okay, the game's over. Not here.
Yeah, I agree. I was like I said, I was literally on my toes the whole time, and it ended with a walk-off touchdown, which we haven't seen a lot of. A couple field goals and like there's some plays like interceptions, but like for instance, I would have put the Steelers-Cardinals game up there, probably a little biased there, but I thought that was mega electric.
I had that
exactly.
Before I slotted this one in just ahead of it, knocking that one to 5.
Right, and obviously I'm going to be biased on that, but one thing I will say is that like even in the first Giants-Patriots game, the Patriots still had a drive. In the Steelers Super Bowl where we beat the Cardinals still had a drive, and the ones we lost against the Packers, we still had a drive. So I do appreciate it was an overtime that, you had the field goal and then you knew they had to get a touchdown. It was 4-down territory, and they scored a touchdown to end the game to McCole Hardman, who admits that he blacked out and doesn't really remember much.
I probably would too. No qualms for it.
But also, I can't, and this will be a good transition into best bets with Bookie Bob, but the lack of an extra point on that touchdown in overtime, alongside the missed extra point, means that this game ended at exactly 47 points. The over-under from Vegas was 47.5, and goddamn is Vegas good. This is a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that the house always wins. So that was an insane. Gamblers around the world were probably shitting bricks when that went to overtime, when you had so many combinations there that really could have sunk some battleships, and probably did. So shout out to Vegas for doing what they do best.
The house might always win, and over in Best Bets with Bookie Bob this week for once, Bob, you walk out on top. We did our 30 picks, 30 prop bets picks. Rob finished with a score of 18. I got a lowly score of 12, which means Rob wins our jersey bet. And so I'm going to find out right here, right now, Rob, what jersey am I getting for you?
I really had to save this for the end of the year because our fans will know I was awful all season long. So it's nice to end on a good note, and we'll get into some more of that after. I thought long and hard about this. I was originally going to go with sort of a comedic one, so maybe a Johnny Manziel Browns, a Jamarcus Russell's Raiders, maybe even a Deshaun Watson Texans or Aaron Hernandez Pats, but I was a little concerned about having any of those either in public or even in my wardrobe. And so since I am a little short on jerseys, and as you can see, only rocking players that no longer play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I decided to go with a tried and true jersey that I would wear from here for a long ways out, and that's a TJ Watt, number 90, Pittsburgh Steelers jersey, Drew. Thank you so much. That is an extra large, and I'm looking forward to that being shipped over international borders and rocking it for a podcast coming to you soon.
Yeah, extra large and in charge, Rob over here. Well, we'll get that for you. Don't worry, you're gonna be getting me a jersey soon anyway. I'll figure out something. You're not gonna beat me for long. And anyway, I walk away okay. I did hedge my bet last week, as we know. So even though I had the 49ers win in the Super Bowl preseason, I hedged it because I did think the Chiefs would win. So I still won $100.
Yeah, you can't be mad at that. My $20 money line on the Chiefs hit. I placed a couple of little props here and there. Managed to be blocked out of my FanDuel account, but found something called Jaja Caliente here in Mexico, courtesy of our buddy Mariano. So shout out Mariano for assisting me with the Spanish language Mexican gambling connect. So yeah, we both, one of the very few weeks where we both, after like week 4, where we both walked away profitable. Hopefully you guys did as well. Some of the other fun props that I wanted to just talk about was the Reba McEntire, the national anthem, because it was 90.5 seconds was the over under from Vegas. We teased ours up to 100 seconds just because generally these things run long.
I did not know
And
that.
Reba, oh yeah, well we did. Reba McEntire hits the Brave at like a minute 15 or something. Like she was quick. That was a real rapid pace. She was hitting it hard, and then she hits Brave, and like hits a second follow up on Brave there, which saved everybody's over, which most people I know picked. So shout out Reba McEntire.
What I'm learning is that, because I thought Rob gave us a straight up over under. I mean, it didn't matter, but I just want to point out that I would have definitely hit the under on 100 if I knew the over-under was lower, but either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, I had looked at one site and then thought that's what it was. And
I would have got 13 instead of 12.
I would have gone over either way, pretty much, unless you put that thing at like 2 minutes. And even then, I'd try to figure out who's singing it. Yeah, but yeah, shout out to myself for picking the only overtime in 2 years. I did take that as a yes. And I also got the fumbles and interceptions. A little mad that we didn't get the extra point and both picked for 2 point. But other than that, it was pretty fun. It gave it a lot of... also, the other one was the first opening song for Usher. And so if anyone watched the halftime, the like intro prelude was one song. But then he starts singing a second song. So I know some other people that had placed some bets with Vegas, and that was quite a contentious one. So shout out to Vegas for always keeping it fun. Gambling, as you know, do responsibly, but enjoy yourself.
Yep. Either way, that's it for this episode. We will be back in a little over a week. So just to give everyone a understanding, we are going to switch to weekend filming, easier for our schedules. So we're not going to film this coming weekend because there won't be much news post Super Bowl. So we're going to be filming the following weekend, releasing the episode early in 2 weeks from now. So probably about 12 days from the time this goes live, the next episode will be live.
Thanks, folks. It's been a hell of a season. We look forward to seeing you over the off season. And of course, at the next, hopefully you can find something to do in the summer days in between. Love you all so much. Peace.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Peace.